Yeah. Hey folks, Roland Martin here, broadcasting live from Georgia Southern University, here of course in Savannah, Georgia. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered for this day, Wednesday, January 30th, 2019. More details in the attack on Empire actor Jussie Smollett. We'll have the latest on that particular case. Also, Atlanta police chase a suspected robber, cornered him in a closet, shot him to death. The NAACP, they have lots of questions as to what took place. The head of the Atlanta NAACP will join us right here on the show. Also, billionaire Howard Schultz, and of course, who wants to be president, tweets out an article calling Senator Kamala Harris shrill. Really do? Also, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas. What the hell is he trying to do? Also, folks, MSNBC's Craig Melvin calls BS on Franklin Graham, saying Donald Trump doesn't lie. Folks, wait until you hear what Graham had to say. Really, dude? Donald Trump doesn't lie? Come on. Also, two reporters found that 8 states with schools named after avowed segregationists and white supremacists, folks. Some with majority black students. The reporters join us live to break this all down. Also, we've got a true life Queen Sugar story, a black family in Louisiana fighting to save their livelihood. Also, we have a second day of tributes for the late James Ingram. We are going to be joined by some heavyweights, including Eddie Levert, Johnny Gill, Howard Hewitt, Terry Ellis, and Joe Albright. Folks, we have a jam-packed show. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now. Martin.
All right, folks, we're getting more details on the racist and homophobic attack against Empire actor Jussie Smollett. The Hollywood Reporter, of course, they reported that Smollett told them that his attackers made "Make America Great Again" comments. And so Chicago police confirm that particular report from the Hollywood Reporter. Also, we know that the chemical poured on Jussie Smollett was bleach. Now, Chicago police say they have looked at hundreds of hours of surveillance tape and have yet to find any video of the attack. Now, they're still looking, and of course, we're talking about Chicago Police Department after all. In their history, but again, they say they have not been able to find any evidence, any video showing Jussie Smollett being attacked by these two men. Now, later today, Congressman Bobby Rush demanded that the FBI director, Christopher Wray, start a hate crime investigation. This is what Rush said. He called for the hate crime investigation in this attack on Jussie Smollett. He sent a letter, and in the letter he said Smollett, who is black and openly gay, was assaulted in Chicago early Tuesday in what police have called a possible racially charged assault and battery. Quote, "This is a hate crime, plain and simple, and I will not stand by while evil acts are inflicted on any citizen, especially not in my hometown." Meanwhile, expressions of support keep coming in for Jussie Smollett. Here's Empire's Terrence Howard today at Good Morning America.
Jaws dropped to the ground. And then when we learned that there had been letters that had been sent to Fox as threats about the potential of something like this, then we became much more frightened. I heard he's getting better. You know, he's angry, but I know Jussie. You know, Jussie's anger will dissipate, and he will forgive these people for what they did. But he won't, and we cannot forget their actions. They have to be forgiven because it was done out of ignorance.
Go. Here's what Congresswoman Maxine Waters told the Griot.
I know Jussie, I love him. Family is a friend of mine. I know his sisters, I met his mom, and I called already to Jazz, one of the sisters, to talk to her about what's happening, what's going on. So she said he's okay, he's out of the hospital. And, you know, we didn't talk about it much more than that, but I was on my way to Chicago to see about him. You know what I'm saying? I love him. He's a fantastic human being. He's so giving. He shows up at all the community events. You know, he does a lot working with the community, but he comes from that kind of family. And so I'm pleased that he's doing okay.
Also, folks, Jussie Smollett also did a rendition of the song Strange Fruit, of course, originally done by Billie Holiday, to highlight what was happening to African Americans who were being lynched. Remember, as a part of this, he told police that a rope was placed around his neck. Here is Jussie Smollett singing Strange Fruit.
Southern trees bear a strange fruit. Blood on the leaves and blood at the root. Black bodies swinging in the southern breeze. Strange fruit hanging from the poplar trees.
All right, folks, we're going to bring in my panel now. Cleo Monago, of course, social political analyst and activist. Also, Dr. Julian Malveaux, economist and president emerita of Bennett College. And Malik Abdul, Republican communications consultant. Cleo, I want to start with you. There are a lot of folks who are already starting to say, oh, this could be fake. This could not be real. Chicago police are saying they looked at hundreds of hours of video. They don't see any sort of thing on here showing he was attacked. And so to folks to begin to call into question the credibility of Jussie Smollett, I've had folks hitting me on social media saying, oh, we've seen this before. Don't get too far ahead of yourselves. This could be fake.
Oh, please.
I doubt very seriously if Mr. Smollett would invent something like this. I mean, usually people who are hateful and insecure and who have some type of hidden agenda does things like this. But I've been in his presence. We never really met officially. We both were at an awards ceremony last year that we both won awards at, but we didn't get a chance to talk because I had to leave. But the bottom line is that this dude, like Maxine said, is in the community.
1 second, hold on, Cleo. I'm having some issues with your audio. Let me go to Julian Malveaux. Julian?
This is absurd that anybody would make this up. This brother is of such a stature that he has no need to make this up. We've seen fake fools before. Let me say that again. We've seen fake fools before. But usually, as Cleo said, they were insecure. They didn't have anything going for themselves. This was their catapult to fame. He is already famous. He's already helping our community. I'm grateful to him for what he's done for Bennett College for Women. He and his brother, I stand with Bennett. And so, first of all, Roland, do we believe anything that comes out of the mouth of a Chicago policeman? After Laquan McDonald, do we truly, really believe that the Chicago police is capable of doing an appropriate investigation? Thank you, Bobby Rush, for being there. Thank you, Congresswoman Waters, for being there. But, you know, we can just throw Chicago police away and say, if this brother said it happened, we know what happened. Not only do we know what happened, but we must resist this lynching or attempted lynching of yet another black man.
Malik?
Well, you know, we have to say that, as we always do, that people, you know, who allege any sort of crime or have been victimized, you know, that they should be believed, or they should be heard. I'll say that. You know, I will say that, you know, the story does sound, it goes in some different directions, because initially what we were told is that, you know, they were shouting MAGA, and, you know, we found out that that wasn't the case, or maybe it was the case. We really still don't know. But there are some things about this story.
No. Here's what we do know. Chicago police do confirm that Jussie Smollett told them that was shouted to him. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, there was some debate about whether or not that was true. So, they said that they were shouted at him. It's fine, but I think we do have to be careful, at least in this sense, because it does sound a bit suspect. In the sense that
How does it sound suspect?
Well, it sounds suspect because we have a guy. He was attacked. They don't have any footage of the attack. I think.
Have any footage of Laquan?
Well, I'm sure they do.
But
they had no footage of Emmett Till.
What we're assuming here, what we're assuming here is that the Chicago police, they're actually, I guess, doing white people in Chicago a favor, particularly white Donald Trump supporters in Chicago, and that does seem a bit off. I don't know if that's true. Whether or not he actually, then when they got to his house, he was sitting in the house, and as they described it, instead of a noose, it was a thin rope that was still around his neck.
Why?
A thin rope as opposed to a noose?
That's fine.
Here,
But the
hold on
fact is,
one second.
bro.
One second, folks. One second. I'm reading from the Associated Press story. Detectives have reviewed surveillance footage of Empire actor Jussie Smollett walking to his downtown Chicago apartment after an early morning visit to a Subway restaurant. But none of the video they've watched so far showed him being attacked. Investigators, quote, for the most part, can confirm the route Smollett took early Tuesday when he says he was attacked by two masked men along a street in the Streeterville neighborhood. However, there are gaps, and none of the footage police have reviewed shows an attack, he said, noting that the review is ongoing. Cleo.
Well, now that you can hear me and Malik has spoken, I'm provoked to say that I really don't believe that Mr. Smollett would create a story. He has no need. He already has a profile, as Dr. Melvin said. He's not one of these insecure basket cases who's desperate for attention. You can't get any more attention than he has from a legitimate context by being part of a well-watched show. And why would somebody pour bleach on themselves and create a fake narrative like this? As I mentioned before, I have witnessed this dude, and he is a part of our community. He is involved in the community, as Maxine Waters said. He and I both shared the stage to get an award last year, and we didn't get a chance to talk much, but I was able to be around his vibe, and I know the kind of work he's done in our community, and I doubt very seriously but somebody like him with his character and his job would make up something like this. And also, as you said, Chicago cannot be trusted. There's no footage. Well, if you would have went by what they said around Laquan McDonald's murder, they had no footage, but they really did have footage. So who knows what they have? But whether they have footage or not, often the footage trail is not complete. There's always gaps in footage, and apparently they haven't found it yet.
And again, what they also said, they're going to be expanding their search in terms of for buses and other buildings to expand the zone by which they're looking at. Let's go to our next story, folks, and that is the Super Bowl is in Atlanta this weekend, but the game will be played against the all too frequent backdrop of another problematic police shooting of an apparently unarmed black man in a closet. The NAACP is investigating, and Richard Rose, who is the NAACP president in Atlanta, joins us right now with details. Richard, how you doing?
Hello, how are you today?
So explain this. First of all, we know one of the reasons why Colin Kaepernick was kneeling and protesting, dealing with police brutality. What's up with this case in Atlanta? Chasing down a black man, shooting and killing him in a closet?
Yes, I spoke with the chief of police, who has not provided any details, but the details we've been able to gather indicate that first it was a suspicious arrest. There was an issue over a cell phone, a disagreement. So in response to that, a criminal warrant was issued, and the police apparently descended upon an apartment complex in full military weaponry. A gentleman jumped out of a third floor window running away, probably a little fearful of his life. They cornered him in a closet of a neighbor's house, and according to witnesses, he came out hands up but was shot in the face by a police officer of Asian descent who reportedly has had some other issues of violence against black and brown suspects and the community. So at first, I think the policeman was returned to duty, but after some outcry, including from the the district attorney in Fulton County, which is Atlanta. He was relieved of duty, and the investigation is ongoing.
And so, obviously, this is unfortunately another case of a black man being shot and killed here. What are the next steps for you and the NAACP?
Well, we will continue to monitor the case. I've had a couple of conversations with the police chief that have been less than forthcoming, but we will follow the information as much as we can. There's been, reports that there were several officers were involved. This particular officer was the only one to discharge a firearm. The other officers had tasers, but this officer used a deadly force that resulted in the loss of life of a 21-year-old black man. Even disagreement over cell phones should not be a death penalty.
All right, Richard Rose, Atlanta NAACP. We certainly appreciate it. Thank you so very much for joining us.
You were quite welcome. Always glad to be here.
All right, thanks a lot. All right, folks, I've always said continuously that white evangelicals continue to give Donald Trump the kind of passes that are absolutely astounding. Well, Reverend Franklin Graham continues to be an embarrassment for the entire Graham family. This is the man who constantly questioned the faith of President Barack Obama, but has nothing but just covers up for a guy who cheated on his wife multiple times. So earlier, Franklin Graham was on MSNBC with Craig Melvin, and he was asked about Trump lying. Listen to this.
You wrote an op-ed for Fox News recently. I read that op-ed, and you wrote in part that truth is 100% right. The Washington Post, as you probably know, the Washington Post fact checker, their analysis reports that the President of the United States has made 8,158 false or misleading claims in his first 2 years. How do you reconcile that?
Well, I don't know how to reconcile that because, I don't know. You have a fact checker for the president, but I don't know if you have a fact checker for the media at the same time.
Pastor Graham, you and I both know that this president has said things over and over that aren't true.
No, I don't know that.
Malik, this is a perfect example of Franklin Graham being a joke. I would not follow Reverend Franklin Graham into a bathroom at an airport if he pointed the way. If you can't even own up to the constant lying by Donald Trump, go sit the hell down.
Well, throwing out the 8,000 lies, and things like that. People generally will kind of tune that out, but I think, from my perspective, when I hear people talk about the lies or whatever, or even as you started the segment asking about this notion about white evangelicals supporting Donald Trump, I don't think white evangelicals are any different from black evangelicals when it comes to supporting a politician.
Yes, they are.
No,
yes, they are.
I don't think so.
Roland, he's stuttering
No,
again.
yes, they
Here's
are.
the problem.
Really? So the black evangelicals were really against Bill Clinton?
Black evangelical.
No, hold up. Hold up. Black evangelicals will sit here and say, Bill Clinton, if you lying, you lying. Donald Trump's white evangelicals will say, oh, he's not lying. He's speaking for Jesus.
Roland, he has his own
say
truth.
that because I know white evangelicals who actually holds Donald Trump accountable.
And he has his own truth.
That there are white evangelicals out there who will not. Of course they're out there. But
let's look at how
I don't think that constitutes all of white evangelicals.
Let's look at how far our country has gone, Roland. If you remember 1976, of course, some of y'all weren't here, but whatever. Jimmy Carter said he lusted in his heart. Lusted in his heart in Playboy magazine, an interview, and this blew up. What kind of sinner was he? Now you got somebody who not only lusts in their heart, but lusts with their hands. I call him GG. either orange orangutan or the genital grabber.
Oh, my gosh.
One of the two. But you sit here, you stuttering just like Franklin
I'm not
Graham.
stuttering.
And the fact of the matter
I'm not
is,
stuttering.
we know that this man is not only a liar, but a proven liar. And there are
have
some
been
people
things,
who
absolutely.
are so-called evangelicals who say they love the Lord, but they don't love the truth.
Well, that's I don't think evangelicals,
Cleo,
Christians, or whatever you want to call it.
Cleo, this is what bothers me the most when I got to deal with Franklin Graham. He won't even own up to just what is undeniable. This is very simple. White evangelicals, all they care about Trump, he is delivering us a conservative Supreme Court. That's all they care about.
Well, Roland, you have featured the voices of a few of these insane, schizophrenic white supremacists on your show, and this is just another one. They are resistance to anything that's rational because they want power, and they don't care about 8,149 lies. Those lies are on their behalf. So from their perspective, they're constructive lies, which means they're not lies. They're important things that you do to deflect power from going elsewhere. So he's just another person who has no relationship to reality except for the reality of them wanting to keep power. So they're going to keep on praising Trump, and this is just a redundant thing that they do. And they always stutter because they have to work past getting beyond the facts so they can come out articulating that Trump is all right. So it's just another one of the guys that you've been talking about.
Malik, final comment. Again, this is where I cannot even deal with Franklin Graham. The fact that the man can't even acknowledge what is undeniable. He won't even say anything that is remotely negative about Donald Trump. He excuses whatever he does. That's why, from this point forth, I don't want to hear Franklin Graham ever talk about morality, character, or values, because he, frankly, has he basically has given up any moral authority whatsoever.
Franklin Graham, Franklin Graham can speak for himself. I personally am someone who can criticize Donald Trump. I get why Franklin Graham feels like he's in a position where he can't, but I want to reiterate that I don't think that this is a white thing. I don't think this is a race thing at all. It's not even really a people thing. It's kind of like that's what Christians do too. So it's not as it's a thing that Christians do. They defend each other. They defend each other at all costs. And again, I go back to what we're talking about with the black pastors. Well, black evangelicals, I'm sorry, not black pastors.
Do not defend each other at all costs.
But yes, they do.
This is very simple. I said, one second. I said there was going to be the final comment there. Bottom line is, we can't say white conservative evangelicals because they are the ones who are largely supporting Donald Trump, and they will give him all kinds of runway to lie and make stuff up because all they care about is a conservative federal bench. That's all they care about.
You have it.
Gotta go to a break. We'll be back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. All right, everybody out here in 2019 trying to get healthy and get well and get fit. And so people are trying all kinds of different diets and different things along those lines. Well, what about the D-Herbs Full Body Cleanse? They're one of the partners here for Roland Martin Unfiltered. As I told you, I did the 20-day D-Herbs Cleanse, lost 18 pounds eating just raw vegetables and fruits and nuts, things along those lines. No fried foods, no processed foods, no red meat, no dairy, all that stuff. You can't do by doing the cleanse. It is about providing you more energy, taking the toxic stuff out of your body, and actually being able to clean you out and to start you fresh and anew. If you want to try the D-Herbs Cleanse, we ask you to go to dherbs.com, and use the promo code ROLAND. You can also call 1-866-4-D-Herbs, 1-866-4-D-HERBS for you to try the D-Herbs Cleanse. They have 27 different cleanses, and so you have an opportunity to be able to try that cleanse as well. And so we certainly hope you do so. And we thank you for supporting D-Herbs, being a partner of Roland Martin Unfiltered. All right, folks, imagine if a black child went to a school named after a man who called America a white man's country and was prepared to make sacrifices to preserve and ensure white supremacy. Well, that's the case when it comes to many schools named after these white supremacists. The folks at Education Week, two reporters, focused on 8 states where this is happening. Andrew, UJ Fusha, and Corey Mitchell, they join us right now. Hey, folks, how you doing?
Thank you for having me, Roland. I appreciate it.
Okay, so tell us about Russell Elementary School in Warner Robins, Georgia.
So this is a project we did where we looked for schools named for Southern politicians who signed what's called the Southern Manifesto in 1956. This document basically said that the Brown v. Board of Education decision about segregated schools was illegitimate, and they encouraged Southern states to resist the ruling by any lawful means. So this was a project we did that built on something we did last year where we looked at schools named after Confederate leaders. We found 22 schools across, as you said, 8 states named for politicians who signed that document in 1956. Probably the most famous was Strom Thurmond in South Carolina, who served in the Senate for close to 5 decades, along with Richard Russell, for whom Russell Elementary School is named, and others as well.
And look, I mean, these are absolute supremacists. These are people who are racist or bigoted. And to have our kids having to go to school with these folks, let's keep in mind, it was after the Brown versus Board of Education decision when many of these schools were named after these Confederate generals and these white supremacists.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that people have pointed out to me in the course of working on this story that, look, it's maybe inappropriate for black children, but also for white children, for any child to be attending schools named after people who held those views and who held a lot of power. I think some people feel that way, and you know, it's also possible that a lot of the children who go to these schools don't know who these men are. It's just a name on a building to them. So, you know, it's hard to tell on a community by community basis how well these men are known and what kind of controversy it might cause in the community if this person's record became better known.
So let's pull up this graphic here, folks. Here's a list of the schools with the highest concentration of African-American students that are named after politicians who signed the Southern Manifesto opposing school integration. You got McClellan Magnan High School, named for John L. McClellan, a U.S. Senator from Arkansas. 89% African-American. Wilbur D. Mills High School, named for Wilbur D. Mills, a congressman from Arkansas. 63% African-American. Strom Thurmond, as you said, that school in Johnson, South Carolina, 50% African-American. You also have Fulbright Elementary School, named for J.W. Fulbright, a U.S. Senator from Arkansas, 45% African-American. William Comer Middle School, named for the representative from Mississippi, Pascagoula, Mississippi, 44% African-American. And as we said, Russell Elementary School. And we can go all around the country and see examples of this. Andrew, last question. Is there a movement afoot to change the name of these schools?
I don't think there's a broad movement in the same way that we've seen people push against schools named for Confederates. There have been isolated cases where people have protested the names, and in a few cases in places like Virginia, the names have been changed. But I think these names are not as well known as names like Robert E. Lee, and so I don't think so far they've provoked the same kind of reaction in different communities.
All right, then. Andrew, great job with Education Week. Thank you for enlightening folks about this.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I want to go to our panel here. Cleo, I want to start with you. We always talk about, the targeting of black people and the psyche of black people. And this is a continuation of white supremacy when we talk about these high schools that are named after folks like Robert E. Lee.
Yeah.
And for the folks who keep saying, oh, don't change them, that's our history. No, these were people who literally did not want black people going to school, who did not want us to actually get ahead in our society. To me, naming a school after somebody is an honor. These are absolutely racist individuals. In fact, the Russell Building in Washington, D.C., where members of Congress's offices are, is named after that same Richard Russell.
And there's also honors like the Rhodes Scholar. You ever heard of Cecil Rhodes, who was a racist white supremacist? And Rhodes Scholars are considered highly developed academics. So the trauma of white supremacy and its normalization in the midst of our lives is a norm, and it does have a discerning impact on the self-concept of black people. And it implies that being a white person who's a racist is fine and being black is not fine. So I'm glad that people are attending to this, and I hope there's some progress made in terms of changing those names, particularly in black schools, because obviously there's these racist names in white schools as well, and J. Edgar Hoover's name is everywhere. Remember him? He made it hard for Malcolm, Martin, Medgar Evers, and Marcus Garvey.
Yeah. These stories, we can figure out what we're going to do with renaming schools or any of things. I'm kind of, yes, I'm concerned about it, but at the same time, I do acknowledge, as you said, I live in a city where the Russell Senate office building is named after that same person. Across the river here, we have the Thomas Jefferson Memorial, who, as people like to romanticize, talk about the fact that he had a mistress named Sally Hemings. Yeah, right.
No, wait. No, hold up. What we not gonna do is use words like that. No, he had a slave who he slept with.
Yeah. Who had no choice.
A mistress.
That's
somebody
who he raped.
How does an enslaved woman say no? I don't feel like it tonight.
One second. Everybody, 1 second. We're going to use proper language here. I'm not going to call somebody who was a slave a mistress.
I agree.
Thank you,
She
Roland.
had no choice but to sleep with him because she was property.
Yeah.
Now go ahead and finish your comment.
And that's why I said that people like to romanticize as she was his mistress. And we know that she was not his mistress. She was a slave. She didn't have a choice in any of that. But my whole point in saying this is that whether we're talking about Robert Byrd, who was the ex-Cyclops of the KKK, a longtime Democrat, these things exist. We have to figure out how to handle them in today's climate. But, Robert Byrd was a member of the KKK, and there are plenty of things in West Virginia named after him. Should we handle it? Sure. We can handle it in whatever way we choose, but I think we should acknowledge that these things exist pretty much across the board.
Malik, this is not partisan at all. We have been in this country for 400 years, and our entire existence here has been repudiated every time we turn around. So naming these schools after these segregationists, having these streets, congressional buildings, all is named after segregationists, continuing to fly that Confederate flag is all about repudiating the African presence. So for you to sit up here and refuse and try to make jokes about romance, there has been no romance.
I didn't make a joke about romance. I'm telling you what people have said
Baby
about
boy,
it. I'm not making that.
You use the word romance. You use the word romance, which does not belong in any sentence that has anything to do.
He was saying that others have
I
romanticized.
need everybody to chill out. Thank you very much.
I'm still rolling, but let's be clear
Next story.
about the enslavement of African American women.
Julian,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
real clear. It's my show.
Yes,
Everybody
sir.
calm down.
I'm calm.
Got it. I got to go to the next story. Great news coming out of Bennett College as we approach Friday's deadline for them to raise $5 million. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated has pledged $100,000 to Bennett College. In addition, the AKs have established the AKA HBCU Endowment Fund with the goal of investing in the future of our young people and the sustainability of our treasured historically black colleges and universities. And the AKs have pledged to donate a total of $10 million towards the endowment within the next 4 years. Also, Wells Fargo, they have pledged $50,000 to Bennett as well. If you want to donate to Bennett College, again, they got to raise $5 million by February 1st regarding the accreditation. Text the word BELLS, BELLES, to 444-999 and follow the instructions. If you use the Cash App donation, you can do $Stand with Bennett. Or you can go online to www.bennett.edu/donate. And so again, we want you to certainly support Bennett College there. And of course, Julian, you were president emerita of Bennett College. And so this is
thank you,
critically
Roland.
important.
I'm
We had
very
the president
grateful.
on. And so go ahead.
No, thank you, Roland. I'm very grateful for your support. Your support has gone back, as I mentioned online some time ago, to when I first became president, and you helped me raise about 30 grand in a day or so when we're looking at some students who have some shortfalls in terms of scholarships. So you have been a yeoman, really, in supporting HBCUs, and we're very grateful to you. I also, I like to fight with my AKA sisters, but I got to give them a shout out on this one. Again, we're just really very grateful. Appreciate the fact that Tennessee State University president, also AKA president, has really been in the fight on this. Again, Roland, I can't say thank you enough.
Roland, I want them to say something real quick about
So again,
this.
everybody who's watching, we want you guys to participate. We created hashtag HBCU Giving Day to encourage people to support your HBCUs. Bennett, in this case, again, impacting black women, educating them, and so we want you to be a part of that. So please go to that. Folks, yesterday was sad news for so many of us when we learned that James Ingram died at the age of 66. He'd been battling brain cancer. We paid tribute to him yesterday, talking to Jeffrey Osborne and talking to others about his life. And so we wanted to continue doing so. And so we're joined right now, and just make sure I'm right first. We got Eddie Levert and Howard Hewitt. All right, so we got Eddie Levert and Howard Hewitt. First of all, I'm going to go to you, Howard, first. You grew up with James Ingram. Okay, I can't hear Howard, guys. Is he there?
I'm here.
Okay, Howard. All right, so Howard,
I'm here.
you've known
hear
James
anybody.
for a long time. Howard, you guys grew up together, right?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Howard. Okay, guys, tell me what's going on the audio-wise. Howard Hewitt, can you hear me? Okay, Eddie Levert, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Hey.
All right, Eddie. So 2007, at the Quincy Jones tribute, the History Makers, you and Howard Hewitt, Herbie Hancock, and others were there to celebrate Quincy Jones. How far back do you go with James Ingram?
Oh man, ever since we were in Canton, Ohio. Ever since I was in high school, he was right down the road in a place called Akron, Ohio, and him and Howard, and we never really crossed paths until after he started making the really big records. And every time that I would run into James, he knew the Bible like almost like backwards and forward, man. He'd have you mesmerized by just knowing the verses and knowing who was whose son and who was whose daughter and who was who. He could tell you all of this, and he would have you mesmerized just talking to him about that. It was whenever I was with James, it was very spiritual.
Eddie.
Man, what in the world was in the water in Ohio with James Ingram and the OJs and of course all these other groups, Howard Hewitt? My goodness. Isley Brothers, Ohio players, all
is
y'all.
that Eddie Levert? Is that
Howard
Eddie Levert?
Hewitt.
Yes. Howard Hewitt,
What's
can
up,
you hear
brother?
us?
How you doing, man? How you doing, man?
So Howard, I got to ask you, Howard, you grew up with James Ingram, right?
Well, I first met James when I was 15. I was 15 years old. I was with a group called Life. We spelled it Lyfe, and his group was called Revelation Funk, and it was crazy because James was the keyboard player for Revelation Funk, and he sang background. He didn't even consider himself a lead singer. Their lead singer was this cat named Bernard Lawson, who still to this day sings sings his butt off. So, I met him when I was 15, and just like Eddie said, I mean, it's like how James was back then. I was 15, so he had to be about 18, and how he was back then is exactly the way he was all throughout his life, man. That was, I mean, if you ever wanted to know a genuine type cat, that was the cat. James was genuine, the same as he was all through his life.
Eddie, Howard just talked about James not really being out front. And, I mean, he had to be pulled out front, if you will. And, man, if Quincy Jones had not heard that demo, he would have kept writing songs and been in the background. But he just had this totally different, unique sound, and we've been blessed as a result of that.
Yeah,
it was he had a Grammy Award-winning sound. He could. James appealed to everybody who liked music, everybody who liked good music. James appealed to those people. Everybody who, if you wanted to know. James was a prime example of good singer, good person, good to talk to,
good writer,
good to be around. Just a good person.
Yeah, I learned so much from James through the years. One of the most important thing to me as a writer is like James and I would get together and we would write stuff. Go to the house, he'd come to my house, I go to his house. And one of the things that he tried to instill in me, and I grasped onto it pretty much, I say 85%, is that whatever song you start, just make sure you finish it. Even if it's BS, just finish it. Then you can always go back and edit and do this and do that, but finish it right then. And that was a very, very poignant, very important situation that he showed me through the years. I mean, there's so many things as far as like, James was one of my best friends and one of my longest friends.
Well, we certainly wanted to give him a proper tribute. I know mainstream media wouldn't have spent much time. We, of course, paid tribute to him yesterday with Jeffrey Osborne, and so we wanted to reach out to you guys. And so, Howard Hewitt, thank you so very much for having you here. Of course, always Eddie Levert. Glad to have you on where you're not butt dialing me.
I knew you was going to butt me out, man.
Howard, this is a true story. Howard, this is true. At least once every 3 months, Eddie Levert butt dials me. I don't know why. I don't know if he got a butt dial setting on his phone, but if he does, my number is programmed into it.
I have big hands, and when I put my hands on the phone, it just seems like it goes to him, and you are the man of choice. Call Roland, and every time I see it, I said, now see here, look at this. He think I really like him.
So Roland, the first time I met you, Roland, you were in a full court jester outfit.
Well, I'm going to be clean now. Let's be clear. I will be clean.
You can call it that.
I was like,
hold up,
said,
Eddie Levert, I got video of you in a lime green suit on stage. You shouldn't be talking about clothes right
absolutely.
now. I gotta go.
But remember, key word there now. Key word on stage.
Green and yellow.
You would never get me in a lime green off the stage.
What is real?
Lime green and yellow.
If
man.
you ain't got this, if you don't have a swagger to wear it.
Back in the day, man. That was the thing back even with James.
Let me tell you something, Roland. Now, those suits right there, back in the day when we had no money, the guy, if we bought a lime green suit like that, and the guy had no money, and he wanted to go out, he'd wear the uniform.
You wear the uniform.
Am I lying, Howard?
You ain't lying. That's for real. I designed an outfit one time. Once it was done, I didn't even know how to get into it myself because it was straps were going this way, straps going that way. you know, James came from the same thing. Revelation Funk. We used to see Revelation Funk and the Ohio players, a battle of the bands up against each other in my high school gymnasium. Yeah. Ohio was
Well,
an amazing place to grow up and to do music. It was amazing, amazing place. Yeah. So,
well, gentlemen, I appreciate you joining us for this tribute. Well, I appreciate both of you joining us for this tribute to James Ingram.
Yes.
Oh, gotcha. Well, yeah, because it's too damn cold. That's why you had to get out of there. Y'all saying to get away from the cold.
Hey, that was
how are you, Eddie Levert? I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate you.
We have to say,
gentlemen, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
I'll meet you later on, Eddie.
Take care, man.
All right, gentlemen, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. All right, folks, we about to bring up now, is it Gerald Albright? We got Gerald Albright, Johnny Gill, Terry Ellis. So y'all tell me who's next, or who we got next on the phone line. So again, y'all, we paid yesterday tribute to James Ingram, and so we want to do it again today because I just believe that the reason we have our platforms, we recognize our own and we give them some love and appreciation. And so I want to bring up, Jackie, who we got next? I know Gerald Albright is over here texting me saying, when y'all calling me? Johnny Gill is doing the same thing, hitting me up. So y'all tell me who's next so I can know who's next. Let's see here. So I'm waiting on my next call here. Any memories from my panelists, Malik, Julian, or Cleo about James Ingram?
I have a short story. There's a guy named Seth Riggs, who you may or may not have heard of, but he's the vocal coach for the Stars. He was the vocal coach for Al Jarreau, for Jeffrey Osborne, and for James Ingram, among others. And I was at a workshop that Seth Riggs gave at UCLA, and we were talking about the business. And to make a long story short, I was talking about what you might imagine I was talking about, which was racism in the music business and how problematic that was. And I gave kind of a short dissertation on my concerns. And at the end of the workshop, James Ingram called me over and he put his arm around my shoulder. He said, "You a smart brother, huh?" And I said, well, I guess, I don't know. He said, "Well, I really appreciate what you said and I want to hear more and we should hang sometime." We never did hang after that. But that was my moment with James Ingram, and he was definitely about his people. And I haven't heard that much comment about that, but he was really involved with the black community and a person who was what they call a so-called race man, somebody who was about the progress and the uplifting of black people, and he made that clear to me during our interaction.
And you know, the fact that he was, that Roland, the importance of your platform here is that this is somebody who would not be lifted up were it not for this kind of time. And the fact is that he was a race man. We've forgotten what race people are. I mean, there were black people. They were not racist. They were racial. They put our people first. Yep. And when I look at Eddie Levert and Howard Hewitt and the others that you're going to bring on, many of them are race people as well. But we don't lift that up enough. And we really do need to understand that no matter what else is going on in your life, your career, your space, that you need to be real black for me. There's a song, I think, Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway.
Beautiful.
Be real black for me. And that's all you got to do.
And I see Malik wearing his dashiki, being real black today on Roland Unfiltered.
He
I want to bring up my man, my alpha brother. I want to bring up my frat brother, saxophonist Gerald Albright. Hey, Gerald.
Hey, Roland, how you doing? Hello, everybody.
Hello, Gerald.
Hey.
Doing great, man. Hate to call you under these circumstances, but we're celebrating the life and legacy of James Ingram. Just share your thoughts about your longtime friend.
Well, I truly missed him. When I got the news yesterday, it was a big blow for me, and actually a double blow for the family, because I also found out that he lost his brother David only a month ago, and so the family is definitely suffering. But in terms of James, just one of the finest vocalists that I've had a chance to know. There's not a purer voice like him. He was just so very, very talented, and I haven't seen him in years because, I moved to Denver, Colorado in 2005. But when I lived in L.A. as a sideman, I got a chance to be on some television shows with him and award shows and things, and my mouth would drop every time he opened his mouth to sing, man. He was just incredible, a great family man, just a great person, man. I'm glad to have known him.
All right, then. Well, I definitely wanted to get you on the show to share your thoughts about James Ingram. And your favorite James Ingram song, last question, your favorite song from James Ingram?
Now, Roland, you know, that's the hardest question of the day right now. It's too many hits. But if I had to narrow it down, I would probably say, Just Once. Just Once was probably number one. But, you know, then there's 100 Ways, too, and I Don't Have a Heart. I mean, it's hard to narrow it down. But what's real interesting is I was on social media yesterday, and I ran across some footage of Brian McKnight doing a tribute to him from his home, and he was just singing some of his hits, James Ingram's hits, and giving some thoughts about James, and it just really took me back to those memories of when I first heard those tunes, man, and like I said, just too many hits, and just a fine musician as well, great keyboardist. He will be truly missed.
All right. Gerald Albright, we surely appreciate it, man. Thank you so very much. And folks, be sure to get Gerald's CD 30, celebrating his 30 years in music. Thanks a lot, Frat.
My pleasure, Frat. All the best. Bye-bye.
All right, then. And folks, real quick, we're going to pull up Terry Ellis of In Vogue. Going to get her on the phone real quick. Malik, your favorite James Ingram song?
I Don't Have the Heart. I don't, and I will admit that I don't, you know, he's probably a bit, you know, before my time a bit, and I know that my mom was a big fan of James Ingram, but I think
man,
probably...
you know what? Hold on, stop. You know what? Can all these people stop with this stuff about before my time? Look, classic music, there is no such thing as before my time. So, for instance, I was 4 in 1972, but I definitely can jam the Philadelphia sound or the Motown sound. I listen to blues, all that sort of stuff. So all that before my time, man, that don't even exist.
But Roland,
music.
you came from a period of real music. See, he's closer to the period of fake music. So he don't really know nothing about this real music. But speaking of James Ingram, I'm a funketeer, so I like
Mississippi.
Yeah, but they have fake music in
real
Mississippi too.
Yeah.
And well, let me be nice to Malik. He has on a dashiki, bless his heart. But anyway, I like music. Speaking of James Ingram, I like.
Hold on, one second. Speaking of real music, I got to go with my girl from H-Town, Terry Ellis of In Vogue. Hey, Terry.
Hey, I'm hearing this conversation.
Hey, darling. Well, you know, always good to have you. I don't have. Yeah, that was Malik. He know that. I'm in class. Come on now. So I don't have much time because I'm literally about to go give a speech at Georgia Southern University. But Terry, I just want to get your thoughts on the passing of James Ingram.
Oh my gosh, I was devastated because I just growing up with him. Speaking of before my time, and I agree with you, Roland. Good music is not for your time. It's what inspired me to even want to be in the business and to sing. In 1983, I was doing How Do You Keep the Music Playing with Ricky LaFontaine at Prairie View A&M University. That was my first introduction to James Ingram, and I was so blown away by his just golden, silky, soulful voice. You know, you haven't heard anything else like it since. And then in 1985, he sang at my best friend's wedding, Holly Robinson Peete. 100 Ways, I'll never forget it. When I tell you, all of us there almost lost our minds. It was incredible. And then in 2004, In Vogue had the opportunity to tour with him and Peebo Bryson and Marilyn McCoo for a Christmas tour.
Wow.
And when I tell you, and we all rode on the same bus, and when I tell you, we were like little kids just sitting there listening to just all the golden moments and the information and the experience that he was giving us and dropping on us. And then I, on that same tour, had the opportunity to sing Baby Come to Me with him. So, you know, I that was it for me. That was an absolute dream come true. And when I tell you, just being on stage, singing that song with him, I was almost speechless every night. Every night. I learned so much from him. He's such a consummate professional, and just, again, the information and experience that he shared with us is priceless.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to pay tribute to the great James Ingram, dead at the age of 66 due to brain cancer. Terry, it's always good chatting with you. Thank you so very much for sharing your memories with us.
Yes.
Thanks so much,
Thanks
love.
for
Thanks a lot.
having me.
All right. Thank you, Cleo, Julian, Malik. I appreciate y'all as well. I've got to go. The program has started here at Georgia Southern University. This is their MLK program, and so I'm about to share a few words with the students here. To all of you, thank you very much for watching us. Be sure to support RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Go there. Please join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar you give makes this show possible. And again, without this show, you wouldn't have the people out there paying tribute to James Ingram. He would just be a sort of passing thought. No, but on shows like this, we give our legends their due, and that's why we exist, and we want you to keep making that possible. So please join the Bring the Funk fan club by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Y'all, I got to go. I got to go speak to the students here. Y'all have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Actually, I'm in William and Mary College tomorrow, Williamsburg, Virginia. So I'm doing a show from there tomorrow because I speak tomorrow night as well. Gotta go. Holla.